Well, welcome back, truth seekers. Welcome back to the Holistic Meets Education Unfiltered. We're so excited to have you here. Of course, I'm with Sarah Stein, co-host, and I'm Candy Smith. And we're so excited to talk to you all today because we are talking about something that is universal, and that is love. And we get to talk about love languages today. I absolutely love languages, and I'm excited to really dive deeper into that. Yes.
Amazing. So, love languages, like Candace said, is universal, right, to everyone. So, it's the same love languages can be applied to children, to adults, to educators, to animals, to all beings, right, on this planet. And understanding these five love languages is super important because it allows for more of a dynamic partnership between individuals. So, of course, for us, we're talking mainly in the education system, right? But this can be applied to romantic partnerships, to family dynamics, to dynamics with pets, with everything, right? And it's just super important to understand the other person you're communing with. So yeah, we're excited to share more about these love languages with you all.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about when it comes to love languages because honestly, I didn't know what a love language was for a long time. Being a child, I didn't know, what my love language was. I just knew kind of what I felt I needed or I wanted from my mom that I kind of wasn't getting. So as I kind of grew up, I don't know, I did not feel like my mother truly loved me. And I know for some people, you'll probably be like, wait, what? You didn't feel like your mother loved you? And the truth of the matter is, no, I did not. I did not at all. Did my mother meet my basic needs? And let me go back because I knew she loved me, right? There were times where I did not feel love. Let me clarify that. There were times where I did not feel love. And so did my mom take care of my basic needs? Yes. I had food, I had shelter, I had clothing. Did she work hard? Yes, to provide. Yes, she did. Did she keep me involved in extracurricular? Yes, she tried her best to. So the question is, well, why wouldn't you feel loved, by that person? And what I didn't get from my mom, I didn't know at the time that my love language was quality time. I didn't know that. I always wanted to watch a movie with my mom. I always wanted to go out places, just her and I spend time. I wanted, to even maybe bake something with her. I just always just wanted to share that time with her. And with my mom being a single mom, at the time being a child, you don't really, get that part. But as an adult now, it was challenging for her. Her time was very limited with working and, taking care of other things and, trying to maintain her personal, well-being and taking care of her children. It was challenging. And so my mom would always kind of buy us things. Always. She would be like, okay, here, I got you this, or, let's go here so I could buy you this. And that never did anything for me. I didn't feel any kind of way about receiving a gift at all. I just knew in my mind that I wanted to spend that quality time with my mom. So that experience right there, of course, would lead me into finding out what love languages were. So keep that in mind with the quality time. And as a mom now, that's something that I do understand more and how to make sure that my children's love languages. Well, first of all, let's go back, because I don't even think we kind of talked about what a love language is, right? What's that definition? So Sarah, what's up? You want to talk about what the love language definition?
Yeah, so I think, so a couple of points first on kind of what you were just saying, Candace. So I think it's important for to highlight that, you know, love and love languages, that's something that, number one, can change over time. So, right, when Candace was younger, it might still be the same, but it could be different. For her, it was quality time was, predominant. Sometimes that can change. Now, as you grow older, as you experience something different, you might then feel that no longer matches and is true for you. And I think what's important with love languages and love in general, it's important to be open to receiving the love from somebody else. And at the same time, you want to, have the space to give that love back. So before we kind of like touch more into love languages, I think it's important that, there have been moments I feel that some people can kind of resonate with the fact where either they were in an environment or they themselves were not in a place where they could receive love through any of the 5 love languages: quality time, physical touch. I'm losing the other 3: gift giving,
Words of affirmation.
Yes. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, acts of service. Did we say acts of service?
Yes, acts of service.
Okay,
Yes,
yes.
there we go. Those are the 5. Yeah, through any of those 5, you need to be in a place of receiving first. If you're not in a place where you can receive, it doesn't matter if you have the same love language as someone else. If you have 2 individuals that both receive love through gift giving, let's say, if you are not in a place to receive gifts, then it doesn't matter that you both enjoy receiving gifts, right? So I think that's something that is important to keep in mind as well. But on the topic of love languages and what it is specifically, I like to think of it as a way to your heart. So love to me stems from your heart, your chest area, your heart chakra. And that's really where humans and individuals receive love, give love, and sort of embody that love. It comes from your heart. It doesn't come from your mind. It doesn't come from anything really. It comes from inside. It's a feeling. So I think that language, that kind of dynamic interaction is sort of, it's like a regular language that, you either learn when you first learn. For most people, it's English in the United States. If you're in another country, whatever that primary language is there, it's an uncovering, it's an understanding of an object, of a human being, of a place. It's a learning of something new. That's kind of how I would view a love language. It's like a discovery in a way. Yeah, that's kind of my perspective on that.
I love that, Sarah. Oh man, you're so introspective. I love it. But yes, like a discovery. I like that word that you said. You're discovering something and you're learning a love language, right? And the thing about love languages are what it can do, the impact it can have on you when you are not feeling like Sarah said, in your heart, you're not having that understanding or feeling wanted, feeling understood, feeling appreciated, right? Because we understand when we feel love, it almost it changes our energy fields, right? When we truly feel that love, and that is what can kind of be felt, on the outside and in our interactions with other people and in our relationships and how we behave. That definitely can shape that. And the thing about a love language, when we are not feeling like that love language, or we're not understood, someone is not showing that, that can trigger things, that can make us feel unwanted, unsupported, not appreciated, not loved. And that is why it is very important to truly not only understand what your love language is, but to understand what other people's love language is as well. Because, for example, if Sarah's love language is gift giving, right? And that's not how I show love. That's not how I receive love, right? And I never give Sarah a gift. Sarah's like, okay, I don't know if Candace really supports me, or she really appreciates the things that I do, or me as a person. And where I'm coming from, I'm like, well, of course Sarah knows I appreciate her and I support her, right? But that is where the languages can have the barriers. It can be a barrier in that love language, and things can get kind of misconstrued because Sarah's love language is not mine. However, that doesn't matter, because once I am cognizant, right, and I have an understanding of what her love language is, then I can take the steps, right, and do things to show that she is understood. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what Candace was saying is very important, that in order to, before you even try to cater or understand someone else's love language, it's incredibly important to figure out what your love language is first, and honor your own love language to yourself before you try to, honor that in somebody else. So if, let's say, my love language is words of affirmation, right? And if I'm not speaking those positive mantras or that optimal self-talk to myself, and working with myself first to get myself to a place where I am not only, in a space to give and receive love, but I'm aware of what my needs are, then only then can I go and support or be aware of someone else's love language and their needs, right? So I think a lot of individuals tend to be, I think there are a lot of people on this planet that want to do good and want to help and heal others. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the time it is at the expense of their own energy capacity and their own healing. But I want to remind everyone out there, whether you're in the education system or not, to meet and honor yourself where you're at and understand and be aware of your love language first before you can meet someone else where they're at. So I just wanted to throw that in and highlight kind of what Candace was saying earlier, because it's super, super important.
Amen. I love that. I love what Sarah is saying, right? And that goes back to self-love. That is self-love. We cannot truly love anyone else until we truly understand the love for ourselves and really recognize the different types of love, because there are a lot of people who don't even know what their love language is. And when you don't know what your love language is, you don't even know how you want to be loved, right? You don't even know maybe how to give, or other people, if you don't know their love language, that can cause disruptions in relationships, that can cause maybe unnecessary conflict, that can cause a lot of miscommunications that don't have to occur. And again, that is important in teacher-child relationship, mother-child, father-child relationship, sibling and sibling, relationship, friends, marriages. That it's in everything. It really is, to truly understand that. So the first love language, for those who may not really have a understanding or definition of what that love language is, the first love language is words of affirmation. And Sarah talked about words of affirmation. And what words of affirmation, what they are those positive or negative. Let's be clear about that with words of affirmation, right? Even though we know affirm, when you affirm, we normally view that as positive, right? We're affirming ourselves and we're speaking highly of ourselves. However, it can be negative as well. Words of affirmation, you can say negative things or speak negative things that can trigger some things and cause a person, again, to not feel loved. So words of affirmation are just those words that we speak. For example, if you say, "Oh, Johnny, you did a great job today on your test," right? As a teacher, if I'm saying that to Johnny and his love language is words of affirmation, what is that going to do to him? Oh my goodness, my teacher really, oh, she's the best. She appreciates me. She really cares for me. And then what if I change it and say, "Johnny, do you not know anything? How did you get, were you not paying attention?" What is that going to do for Johnny? Because his love language is words of affirmation. Do you think he's going to feel love? Do you think he's going to think you care about him? No. Now I'm taking everything you're saying and, oh my God, my teacher does not like me at all. My teacher does not understand me. My teacher does not appreciate me, okay? And this is the thing with words of affirmation. It is important to speak life. Like Sarah said, with the positive affirmations, okay, to ourselves, right? Words of affirmation. I love how Sarah said that, to start with self first. I am abundant. I am healthy. I am happy, right? We can speak those things to ourselves first and have that self-love. And it's important to speak that to other people as well, whose love language is words of affirmation. Again, second one, Sarah, if you want to talk about the second one.
Yeah, sure. So the second one I'm going to talk about gift giving. And this is an interesting one to sort of implement in a school system. I think for younger children, it might be a bit easier to integrate more of like a reward system, right? So let's say if you have a student in your class, let's say her name is Anna, right? So let's say Anna is, someone that has the love language of gift giving. That's how she receives love. So as an educator, as a teacher, you can implement a gift or a reward of some kind. Maybe if you see her progressing in her reading comprehension over time, maybe she, achieves this major goal of going through 3, levels in her reading, and she achieves that. Or maybe she has been improving her math or her social skills in a class, or maybe she's a bit shy and you see that she's making an effort to, put herself out there. Little prizes and little things that you can, give to her to show that you not only congratulate her for her efforts, but you see her. And I think this concept of seeing the individual, whether it's a child, an adult, an animal, anybody, right? That's super important in understanding this whole dynamic of love languages, right? It's not only about desiring love. We as humans have this enormous desire to be seen and to be understood and to be heard. And in understanding and catering to someone's love language, right? You see the person for who they are, because like Candace was sharing earlier with her childhood, story growing up, if, you were presented with love language that was not true to you, you felt unseen. So I think, it's very important that, you understand the love language of the other person. And if you can, to the best of your ability to, honor that. So yeah, with gift giving, in younger, I think grades, it's a bit easier in a school system, right? As you get older, it's a bit more, presents a bit more challenges, I think. But I think, this is for all the educators out there. This is the call for you to get creative. It doesn't always have to be a gift. It doesn't have to be something that, you buy at a store and you spend money on. A gift can be a letter that you write to the students. It can be something that came from you to honor their effort and where they're at. So it doesn't always have to be like a physical, like toy or pencil, or it could be, and that's great, but it also can be something that you create that is, for that individual student. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on gift giving.
Yeah, I love that. And, both of us, Sarah, being an educator, it is important, to kind of have that DIY, right? To really be creative and tap into our creative side and really understand that every child is different and every child has a different love language, and understanding how that makes a child feel when they do receive a sticker, or they do receive, the opportunity to maybe do art or play an instrument, or, have that time to do those things being given, because that's a gift. Time is a gift, that definitely is. And we know children light up when they get they get things, right? So that's awesome with the gift giving. So we've talked about words of affirmation, gift giving. Number three is quality time. Quality time. I know I kind of talked about quality time earlier with the situation with me as a child growing up and my mom, and kind of what that looks like. What does that look like? Well, we hear the word quality, right? And we hear time. So we know that means really spending good time with the people that we love and we care about, and doing things that, are of interest, to us. I'll talk about from a personal perspective, and then I'll talk about a school perspective. So from the personal perspective, with my two boys, something that they love, which I know their love language, right? And that's another thing we'll talk about later on, is how do you even know what your love language is? But for my two boys, they love watching movies with me. They love kind of sitting there, spending that time with me and really engaging in something together and laughing, smiling, or just knowing that they have my attention, for that time. I think that is important with quality time, right? Because sometimes what can happen is we get on our phones, we get distracted, we end up doing a lot of different things that can interrupt time spending with the people we care about and we love. And that kind of takes away from it being quality, right? That's the whole point of quality time. It's just you and that person, or you, and the people you care about. And so what it does for my two boys, it truly makes them feel like we are sharing a connection, we are bonding. It's creating memories, to really spend that quality time with each other. And they truly feel loved and they feel like we're a family unit. And I really care about them. And I feel like they really care about me when they make that effort, and that time to sit there with me. And I'm sure they feel the same way, and not allow other things to take that time away. Right? You can imagine coming home and your child is saying, Mom, I want to go outside and play. Come play with me. No, I have too much to do. I can't. I have this, 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 I have this. Right? So that may not be your love language as a parent, quality time, but if that's your child's love language, you want to know what they're thinking. You don't care about me, 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 right? That is what they're getting. That's what they're receiving, those messages. That's the language. That is the communication they are receiving. And so even though something may not be your love language, quality time, it's important to kind of make those sacrifices and understand how your child, or how, your spouse, or how, your family member or friend or whoever, understand that they want to spend quality time and make time, right? I think we all make time for what we want to make time for, especially in friendships, or in relationships. It's easy to say I'm too busy. It's easy to say that, right? Because life is a lot. It gets hectic. But it's important to carve out time to maybe check on a friend, to maybe check on a family member, to maybe say, hey, you want to go get some ice cream, hang out, if that's their love language, right? Or your love language. That's how you show love. And so from a personal perspective, that is quality time. Now I'm going to kind of talk about from the educational standpoint of quality time in a classroom. So what that looks like is an educator, a teacher, really setting that lesson or setting up that time to really spend with the students, right? And truly give them the attention that they need, even if that is a teacher taking a student, pulling a student out one-on-one, and maybe having a conversation and, just maybe saying things like, hey, I would love to talk to you for a little bit just to tell you, how proud I am, of you and the things that you're, doing. So maybe, if you continue to do these good things, we can have lunch together, or maybe have lunch with the class, during their lunchtime to spend that time, with them, or maybe at recess, go outside if you're able to, and, play outside with them to spend that time, or even set up centers, where you can sit down with them and play games with them, just really showing them that you care about them, and you love them. Because as an educator, yes, you are supposed to love what you do and love your students, yes. And children feel that, and when children feel like maybe as a teacher, you're on your cell phone, believe it or not, there are teachers who are on their cell phone at work. I mean, I'm just, You may not want to hear it, but it's the truth. You have some who are on their cell phones texting at work while students, are trying to get their attention. And so that student does not feel heard, or like Sarah said, I love that word, seen. They don't feel seen, or that you care about them. So it is important to truly, make sure that you are carving out that time for students, whether that's a group, whether that's individually, and even with your family.
I love that. Yes. So that was number 3, quality time. I'm going to move on to number 4, which is I'm going to be talking about physical touch, which is another interesting love language to implement in a classroom. So I think, from a student's perspective, so if a student has a love language that is physical touch, something that, an educator or a teacher can do is incorporate things like high fives as, markers of, success, or things like hugs, spending some time with them, maybe, during a recess, or when you're either doing one-on-one time with a student, making sure you, again, teachers, get creative here with physical touch, right? There's, of course, boundaries, and being in a classroom, not every student. So students that have the language of physical touch, not every student likes physical touch in the same way, just like with any of the other love languages, right? Quality time, words of affirmation, those are not all presented the same to each individual that has that love language, right? So there is some nuances there. And I think a beautiful thing to keep in mind is if you have a student that, let's say, that their love language is physical touch, but you don't know how to deliver that, you can always ask. You can always ask the student if they're able to communicate that to you. What would be supportive here? How can I, support you now, or things like that. And you can get feedback, right, from the individual themselves, right? Because it's learning someone else's love language is a process, right? Even once you learn what it is, you then go on to learning how to deliver that to somebody. And it takes time, and you don't have to be perfect, right, the first time you try. So definitely you can always ask, the student, or if it's a spouse or a loved one, or if it's a pet, you can't really ask a pet, but they might give you some clues in other ways for if they need some, like, physical touch. So that's something I wanted to share. The other thing too with physical touch, really, in any other love language, is we've really been sharing from the perspective of this is the student's love language, but I want to emphasize as well that the same is true for the educators and the staff, and everyone else that partakes in, the functioning of schools and education systems. Everyone has a love language. So of course, it is important for the educators to, understand the love language of the student, but it's also helpful for the students to be mindful of the love language of their educator, their teacher, their parents, the principal, their peers. So it goes both ways. And I think especially students that are older, so I would say beyond elementary school, so students that are junior high, high school, college, university, if that applies to you, um, you have more of an understanding of, I would say, social cues and body language. So even if, you don't know, let's say, your teacher's love language, there might be little hints here and there that they sort of present that you might be able to get an idea. So if someone, let's say, gives them a gift for Teacher Appreciation Week, right? And they are absolutely over the moon, emotional. They hug the student, they get very excited. They mention it, out loud, that like, thank you so much, like super, it's amazing to receive such a wonderful gift, right? Something like that. That's something to keep in mind. So not everyone, right? You won't always know someone's love language, and that's okay. You can try, if you're in a partnership with somebody. So if you're a student and you don't know your teacher's love language, you think you might know, but you're not quite sure. Let's say you're debating between, let's say, words of affirmation and gift giving, right? It's for your teacher, but you don't know which of the two. You can try one, right? And, see how that goes. You might get feedback, where they appreciate it, and they'll tell you, hey, thank you, but, X, Y, Z. Or they might honor that and be like, this is exactly what I needed to hear right now, or this is exactly what I wanted right now. So it's not all about getting the person's correct love language. It's not necessarily about that. So this is something I want to highlight too. As Candice and I are sharing the 5 love languages, it's not about, nailing everybody's top love language, because the truth is it's most likely not going to happen with everyone that you're going to get their, number 1 love language correct. So I think it's important to just show love in the way that you can. And again, it's up to the other person to be able to receive that. Even if it's not their love language, that's okay. They can, receive, if they want to let you know that, like, hey, this is not how, I prefer to receive XYZ, right? If they let you know, great. If they don't, if they're just like, thanks, that's okay. You made an effort. And I think that it's super important. You don't have to be perfect. There's no perfect like love language for everybody, right? Because even as individuals, right, for myself too, I have a primary love language, but I also have a secondary and tertiary love language too, that, I enjoy receiving, right? Any of those 3. And there are some people like that too, that have multiple love languages, that even if you do like an online test, which there are some, that's one of the things that I think Candice and I will touch upon later. You can do like an online test and see which love language is most closely related to like your personality and who you are and things like that. So you can do a test, and let's say gift giving is number 1 and quality time is number 2 and words of affirmation is number 3. That's how it shows on the test. But for you in real life, it could be that all of those 3 are equal to you, or maybe words of affirmation is number 1 and gift giving is number 2, and so on. So try your best to show love to everybody that you come across. So something that, I've seen and heard multiple times, it's something that touches my heart. I'm going to share it here. Everything that touches you, like everything in the world that you touch is touched by you. So you have an effect on everyone and everything that you come across. So every interaction is important. So if you can spread love in whatever way is true for you, that's the best thing. Even if it's not exactly the love language of someone else. So if your love language is words of affirmation, but someone else's is quality time, even if you share your love via words of affirmation, that's beautiful, because it's still the way you can show love, even if the other person, it's not exactly what they were looking for. Yeah, so that's that's a very long rant on physical touch, but a few key points there to keep in mind.
That's absolutely amazing, what you said, because that is, I'm telling you, Sarah, she gives a lot of gold nuggets. I know you already know that from listening to previous episodes. That is so true. It's not just one love language. We have multiple love languages, and our love languages can change depending on our life, depending on if it's a friendship. Some of our love languages are different in a friendship versus a parent-child relationship, or a teacher student, or how we operate, right, in the workforce. That can be different than how we operate in our personal lives, and those love languages can be different. So yes, listening to that, I can see where I love what Sarah said about love. As long as you show love, right, that is what is ultimately important, because we can get caught up in, okay, well, how do I know what this love language is, and what if I don't show? No, it's not to get that technical with it. It's to just have that self-awareness, right, and to be aware of maybe why a person may be behaving, the way they are, or maybe not responding to you the way, you would like them to. And that's just something to maybe understand. Okay, well, maybe I can, do something a little differently. That's even with communication styles, or, personality types, all of that. It is important, right, to be aware of that, even though you don't want to get caught up on, like Sarah said, the perfectionism, right, of wanting to understand exactly, because let's just be real, you're not gonna understand or know what everybody's love language is. That's just not, it's not possible. Okay. What we're trying to bring is just an awareness to maybe help, you to have a better relationship in the classroom, or, at home with your family or with your friends. So yeah, that was a great one about physical touch. And if I could just add this to physical touch, physical touch looks very different depending on the age of the child, right? Because I have a 7-year-old and I have a 13-year-old. And so with my teenager, he does enjoy, right, the physical touch. However, he may not express that, being a teenager, all the time, or he may, be like, I'm too cool to, hug my mom, or, do these things. However, what he may enjoy is playing basketball outside with each other, or wrestling. I know that sounds crazy, y'all. Yes, I wrestle with my children. I do. They're boys, but that is physical touch. And like Sarah said, with the high fives, that definitely is. And teenagers sometimes, depending on their temperament, they may not want to give a hug. They may not, really want to be as close, but there are other ways to show that physical touch. Just like when boys play football, that's a contact sport, right? They're in contact with each other. That's still physical touch. So I just wanted to throw that out there with that. So we have what now, Sarah? We have words of affirmation. We talked about words of affirmation. We talked about gift giving. We talked about quality time.
Physical touch.
Physical touch. Physical touch. So the fifth one, okay, last, okay, but not least, it is acts of service. acts of service. So when we hear acts of service, what do you think of? You think of doing something to help somebody, right? You're performing a service to support somebody, or, you know, if they're in need, you help. And so with acts of service, that is actually one of mine. That is one of my love languages. That is how I feel loved, is through acts of service. And I'll just talk a little bit about that. When it comes to, because me personally, I'm a very compassionate person. That's how I show love too, by the way, to other people. I enjoy supporting other people. I enjoy doing things that can make their life easier, you know, or better, or just overall making them feel happy, you know, by me doing what I can, you know, in any kind of way to help them. And so when a person, for example, if I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, and someone does not maybe offer, you know, to help me, or when I ask them, you know, if they can help me and they don't, I won't lie. I feel like, do they truly care about me? I don't think they truly love me, because if they did, you know, they would definitely try to support me and do some things where they see I cannot, you know, at the time. And so that is important, right? To understand, again, to me, that is why it's important to understand a person's love language, because sometimes relationships can end, you know, or relationships can really suffer because of that unawareness of the love language. And it doesn't have to, right? It's just understanding what it is. So in the classroom, acts of service, what does that look like? So they have job duties, right? In classrooms. They have job duties in classrooms at the elementary level. Students have responsibilities. They do different things, right? They can sweep the floor, they can take the mail, you know, to the office, they can be the line leader. I mean, they have a lot of different jobs that they do. However, from in a classroom with a student, a teacher can really feel appreciated and feel supported when a student comes up and says, "Hey, Miss Smith, I'm gonna go ahead and wipe off, you know, the tables. You don't have to tell me, you know, to do that. I'm gonna wipe off the tables and do my job duty that was assigned to me to help you." Or they might ask, "Hey, Miss Smith, may I please help you and take that to a teacher's classroom? I would like to help you." That is how a teacher could feel supported, you know, or cared about by a student, because that student is willing to help or support. Now, how does a student feel supported, right? A student can feel supported, for example, if a student comes in and a student, and this happens, you all, I'm not saying this just to say it, this happens. If a student comes in and let's say that they don't have on socks, or they don't have, their shoes are too tight, right? Or they come into the classroom, they don't have the supplies that they need, or they come into, you know, the classroom and they're not feeling well. A student would feel loved and supported if their love language is acts of service. If that teacher says, "Hey, I went and I spoke, you know, with someone, and we were able to get you some socks. You know, we were able to get you some shoes," and that falls in the line of gift giving as well, actually.
Mhm.
Or, "Hey, I have some extra supplies here, you know, that I want to give to you and share with you to help you, you know, so you can do your work." Or you're not feeling well, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and contact the nurse, so you can go down and, you know, they could take a look at you." Or I go get a Band-Aid, you know, and put the Band-Aid on you. That is acts of service. And it's a lot of different ways to show acts of service, but this is just a example of it in a classroom. And even from administration perspective to teachers, acts of service, okay? That's even taking a moment to say, hey, teachers, we understand that this has been a long school year. You have definitely been challenged in a lot of different ways. And so what we're going to do is we're going to allow you, okay, to have an extra, 15 minutes, I don't know, after lunch for just yourself, to do what you want to do, and someone will take over the classroom. That's just an example. I know that never happens, y'all. I know, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying that would definitely be an acts of service, or helping, or maybe upper class, students coming down to help clean a classroom, where that teacher is not able to get that done, or help move furniture, for that teacher, different things like that. That's definitely acts of service in the classroom. And acts of service at home looks like, for example, I know I always talk about my children, but with my two boys, for example, hey, mom, I took out the trash for you. I went and, I cleaned up my room. You didn't have to tell me, to do it. Or what do you need, mom? How can I help you? How can I support you? Even just asking a question. I think that is important as well, to really inquire what a person needs, because sometimes you might overstep your boundaries by doing something, and that person may not even have wanted you to, do that. So just kind of understanding what that person's wants are and what their needs are by asking them, hey, what can I do to support you today? That's whether in a friendship, okay, where you're calling and saying, hey, how can I support you today? How can I help you? Or even acts of service, you all, is being empathetic. Did you know that? Acts of service is just being empathetic. What does that mean? That means listening. That means hearing a person and how they feel, and resonating with how they feel, and being an active participant in the conversation, and not over talking them, or not dismissing their feelings, but truly having an understanding of how they feel, and maybe sometimes giving a solution, but sometimes not. And that is being supportive, and that is showing, that's showing that you care.
Exactly. And I think there were a lot of good points that Candace just mentioned, and I think I want to highlight a couple of things. So first of all, the love languages, they can overlap, which is something that Candace mentioned, right? So you can have acts of service and gift giving sometimes might look similar. Quality time and words of affirmation might look similar sometimes. There are many combinations, and that's why, again, to reiterate, it's not about labeling, this is my love language and this is the only way I can receive and give love. It's more of, it's another tool to throw into your toolbox of how you can learn more about yourself and learn more about the world and your surroundings. It's not to sort of, pinpoint everybody as, okay, they receive love this way. If I try to give love that way, they won't receive it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that, especially with younger children, if we're, keeping with the education and school dynamic, younger children and children in general are very intuitive. And so what that means is they can feel and perceive things without being told by someone else. They feel it. So this is ties back to kind of what I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation about love language coming from the heart. It's a feeling. It's not a formality. It's not a definition. It's not, it's how you feel. So with children, feeling and being in tune with things, they can tell when something, goes right or when something doesn't. So all of this is to say that how educators and how admin and how even upperclassmen treat each other, whether that's within a love language dynamic or not, they pick up on that. So, it's important for, older students and administration and teachers to honor themselves and each other with love languages. And that way, the younger students can see that and reflect that as well, right? Because as humans, right, we learn from experience. We learn from watching and observing other people and other things. So if we see a behavior to be, presented in our environment, we then copy, adapt that behavior and implement that, right? So if you're in, let's say, a school environment where, let's say, the administration, because I see this a lot as a tutor, I work a lot with teachers that work in schools where, let's say, the administration does not honor the needs of the teacher. They're not like what Candace was mentioning earlier about, they never acknowledge that, hey, Mrs. Smith is doing a great job, or, hey, let me, have maybe a breakfast for the teachers on Teacher Appreciation Week or something like that. That type of behavior then follows and trickles down to the students. Whether or not you think that they're too young, they don't understand, or that doesn't involve them, so they're not affected by that. That's not true. We all have, the ability to be an observer for the most part in some way. And it's very eye-opening to see, when there is, a behavior being presented, to see students then just replicate that. So it's very important to keep in mind how you, if you're, an adult in an, in an education system. So an educator, an admin, any type of, like social worker, secretary in the school, how are you interacting and giving love to those you commune with?
Oh, that's good.
Think about that. Think about that, because that not only affects you and the people you commune with, but that affects the students that watch how you commune with other people. So in our education system, in our schools, what people don't understand is that it's a community. And the reason it's a community is because everything that everyone does affects everyone. So if there's, I'm going to talk about high schools briefly. If there's a fight breaking out between, let's say, two students somewhere, that doesn't only affect just those two students involved in the fight. It affects the students that are in the other classrooms. It affects the other educators trying to teach. It affects those children, their families. It can affect classrooms on the floor below if there's a lot of noise. It affects the admin, it affects the security guards. Everyone needs to get involved. So everything that everyone does in a school affects each other. So the more we can encourage love and being aware of other people's love language, or how they can give and receive love, the more of a beautiful environment it'll be for everyone to be in, right? Because for students, they typically show up to school to learn, right? To learn, to receive education of some kind, to receive social interaction of some kind, right? For admin and teachers, it's a job. It's something that sometimes it's something they love, sometimes it's something they need to do in order to honor themselves and their family, to pay the bills, to do what they have to do, right? But together, without everyone, the system can't function. So everyone needs to be, right, on board, on the same page.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's unity, right? That's coming together, and unity is love. We understand that. So beautiful what you said, Sarah, about that. It takes everybody, and like Sarah said, it's a trickle down effect. And what everything kind of boils down to is love. What is love? We know love is patient. We know love is kind. We know love doesn't see fault, right? In others, we make allowances, and we have understanding for one another. So that right there is truly what love is. And even though there may be different, you know, uh, ways of showing that love, love is ultimately still the same, to be patient and kind and understanding in that. And in the school system, unfortunately, we need to see more of that love, understanding of the students, understanding of the teachers, understanding of the admin, understanding of the parents, and having that patience, with them. And really realizing that if more love, is, encouraged, and more love is implemented in the classroom and in the schools, that things would definitely, I don't know about you, Sarah, but I believe that is the change of the education system. And that is that more holistic view, is really having love to be the head, of everything. And we know what love is. God is love. So I truly feel like that right there is, yeah, it's very important. So amazing. So yeah, these love languages, it's not something we're saying to, look, what am I trying to say, you all? But we're not trying to say, hey, these are the love languages, and you have to be able to understand it to a T, or if you don't, understand these love languages, and you won't be able to receive the love, that you need. No, that's not the case at all. What love languages are for is to build on connection, to build on that relationship, to build on that communication, and just to build on, that understanding. If I said that already, I don't know you all, but to build on that understanding. So we hope that, you all understand the importance of love, of what happens when you don't receive that love, and how a person can kind of take that in a different way, in a negative way. So making sure that we all are affirming ourselves, we're speaking positivity into ourselves, into other people. We're spending quality time with ourselves, right? First, and we're having that gift giving for ourselves, and those acts of service for ourselves first, in order to do that for other people, and for other people to feel wanted, because it starts with us. What Sarah said in the beginning, that is absolutely correct. it starts with us. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's, again, to bounce off what Candace was just saying, right? This whole idea with love languages, it's not an ultimatum, right? It's more of an invitation for you to kind of incorporate when you feel, when and if you feel called to. So again, the main thing here is to walk forward with love, in the most honest, truthful way you can, with everyone you meet. So take inventory, of yourself, your life, your interactions, and make it so that the next person that you interact with, or the next thing, place, that it's through love, and walk forth with that intention always. It's not limited, like Candace was saying, to a school building. It's not only when you're in a school building, it's not only in your home. It's with everyone and everywhere, and we need more of it, now more than ever. So again, like Candace was saying, it all starts with us, and it takes one person to walk forward, one person, and then everyone else will follow. So if you can lead, even if you're in your own, if you want to start it in your family, you can be that person. Then get your family on board, then get your school district on board, then get your community on board. It only takes one person. So yeah, definitely, take a look, walk in love, and just continue to be kind to everyone. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Yes. Yes. Continue, like Sarah said, to operate in that love and be compassionate to one another. And also, if you are wanting to know what your love language is, or you want to know what your child's love language is, you definitely can go. They have a lot of different quizzes online. You can go on Pinterest. I love Pinterest, by the way, but you can go on Pinterest, and you can look up, they even have different categories for you, child versus adult, the different love languages that you can see, and just kind of get an understanding of how you show love, or how you can show love to other people. And again, like Sarah said, this is just a part of the tools that you already have, definitely. So just to add that, and maybe if you all would like, we can kind of talk about communication styles down the line, or personality types, I don't know, in children. It's kind of up to you all. That's something you all can comment, if you would like that. But our goal is to always speak the truth and speak the light, and be the light. And we just really hope and pray that you all receive, this message, because that is the movement, with the holistic meets education. It is truly operating in authentic love. And, when we feel love, I know for me, when I feel love, that motivates me, that makes me want to do more. So it is important in the school system, for children to feel that way, so they can feel motivated, and teachers can feel motivated, and everybody can feel motivated, right? To do more in their life, and yeah, just overall. So yeah, this was exciting, Sarah. I enjoyed this episode. How about you?